just because you pass a law or just because there's a research study saying that something should be effective, that doesn't necessarily mean that teachers know how to implement that in the classroom or that they have the support to do so. North Carolina passed a law in 2021 that required some changes to how districts operated in regard to reading instruction and how colleges of higher education did. And two of the biggest changes for districts were that all K-5 teachers had to undergo a pretty intensive 2-year training. And that the district leaders had to go through a review process for the curriculum and intervention materials. I went to visit a school in eastern North Carolina where teachers were almost a year into this training program. It's called Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. It's also known as LETRS. I talked to some teachers and reading coaches about their experiences. A lot of the teachers were really receptive to the training. They thought it was really useful. They talked about feeling bad about some of what they didn't know before and how they had been able to work with students before they had this knowledge. But they also talked about feeling like they didn't have the support or the resources that they needed to put this training into practice. Lucy Calkins is the creator of a program called the Units of Study for Teaching Reading. It's a workshop-based curriculum, and it's come under a lot of fire from education groups, from researchers, for a couple of different reasons. One is how the program teaches foundational reading skills, so how it teaches students how to sound out words, how letters represent sounds. And then also for some issues around text quality and how texts sequence to build student knowledge in certain areas. And it's also come under fire for including a method called cueing, which kind of broadly refers to using other sources of information to figure out what words are other than the letters. So if a student's struggling, a teacher might direct that student to look at the picture and guess at a word that might make sense, rather than reading through the word. The reading researchers who I spoke with said that there are some pretty big changes. The cueing is gone, and there's a lot more attention to letters and sounds. However, the researchers I spoke with also said that it's still probably not explicit or systematic enough for some students and for some teachers, and that some of the same issues around text quality and knowledge building are still there. A lot of school districts are starting to pay more careful attention to integrating foundational skills instruction into a whole ELA or reading block. And what I mean by that is that when the science of reading movement sort of started gaining steam, a lot of district leaders and educators rightly said we are not giving enough attention to phonics, to phonemic awareness, and they moved to fix that really quickly. But sometimes in schools that have made those changes, there are other practices that happen throughout the rest of the school day in the rest of the reading block that contradict some of that work. So in a school that I visited for the reading project that I did this summer, there were classes that did phonics instruction in the morning, and then in the afternoon they had a guided reading block where teachers were in books with students, encouraging them to predict words based on pictures or the first letter. And so those things contradict each other, and I think schools are starting to realize and to make strides toward making sure that the entire reading block is aligned in approach to instruction. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is I think we're going to start hearing even more about knowledge building curricula. And that's this idea that a reading program shouldn't just be teaching skills, comprehension skills, kind of in isolation, but that it should be trying to build students' knowledge around certain topics. There's research that says that when a reader knows more about the subject that they're reading, they can comprehend the passage better. And that might sound kind of common sense, but in a lot of schools, that's not how reading comprehension is taught, and it's really focused on skills and strategies. And so I think we're going to see more school districts trying to figure out what this knowledge building approach might look like with their students and with their teachers.